points about reading and discussion and so on, then I definitely agree with that as well. We do actually have a sort of a basic reading list of suggested things to start with. And obviously there's our own stuff that people can start with, but then there is also historical works, and there's works by Marx and Lenin and Trotsky and so on. And some of them are over there, and Keith runs the bookshop, so he's the expert on everything that we've got. But we should, I mean, definitely, I think it's a very good idea to try out perhaps having a reading group locally, and if it's not possible to get a reading group, at least sort of one-to-one meet up, you know, read something, discuss it, and so on, definitely. One of the things that is the role of a party really is to be the memory of the working class. I mean, that's really what, I didn't use that phrase, but that's what I was getting at when I was talking about learning from history and everything, because of course you don't get taught these things in any other way, and it's important that we do that as part of our functioning. And also in terms of like that Sandra was saying, like consciousness type issues. I mean, we do have. I mean, I think what the biggest consciousness raising thing that happens to people is when things happen to them and they get active, and then people's ideas can change overnight very rapidly when you come up against some sort of attack and have to get organised. I always give the example, and I apologise very much to those people who've heard me say it so many times before, but a few years ago there were workers in car component factories, Vistian, who their factories were shut down overnight. They didn't know it was going to happen, and these were workers, mostly middle-aged men, who had worked in this industry for 20 years or more, that turned up to work one day and had no job. And most of them had never been on strike before, or if they had, it was like a long time ago. Within one day, they were on the roof of their factory. And they said to us, we were going along and supporting them like we do, that, you know, if you'd said to us even just a few days ago, would I go on a protest, they'd have probably said no. But things changed completely for them, and they were on the roof of their factory. A couple of weeks later, 13 of them were at a Socialist Party meeting about what is socialism. And again, they said, a few weeks ago, we saw people like you on the street and we thought you were mad. We would cross the road to avoid you. And now we're here in the meeting discussing socialist ideas with you. And that's how, I think that's the biggest way that consciousness changes. But of course, we have to do what we can through discussions and meetings and material and so on to aid that as well. And we do have, within the party, we do have women's meetings, we have youth meetings. In fact, there's a youth meeting going on this weekend where I think that idea about a petition that you were raising on work experience, we should raise that at the meeting this weekend, because you do it locally, but we should perhaps take that up in other places as well. We have an LGBT meetings, we have Black and Asian meetings, all of which are for different members and supporters to discuss particular questions, particular ideas, which all feed into the way that we operate as a party as a whole. Then I just wanted to comment on two of the sort of slightly bigger issues that came up, one being the left, the fragmentation of the left, and the other one being about the way we organise democratic centralism. Big, and I'll be quick, and you will have to have other meetings, other discussions about them to do them sufficiently. But in terms of the left, I mean, yes, of course, we are all socialists. There are other organisations that are also called themselves socialists, and on a very, very broad level, a lot of people will say, why don't you all get together? You're all socialists, you should all be in the same organisation, and we have every sympathy with that idea, and we do work with other organisations wherever we possibly can. Tusk is one example of trying to work cooperatively with other organisations, and there are lots of other examples of that too. But I would say that the ideas and the differences matter. It's because it's not just about being a socialist, but it's about what you do. And how are we actually going to achieve the things that we want to achieve? And there are actually some very big differences. I mean, for example, just one concrete example I would give at the moment is on the NHS, that there are lots of people campaigning to save their local hospital, to save the accident and emergency, and things like that out there in the NHS. Lots of people, and we will work with whoever wants to save their local hospital. It doesn't matter who they are, we will stand shoulder to shoulder with people to save the local hospital. But we will criticise the Labour Party and other organisations who will say that all we can do is just save this hospital and not bring in other issues. There are people, including people in the Socialist Workers' Party and other parties, who say that because we all need to stand together, we can't say any more than just save this hospital, because as soon as you do, you're having a criticism of other people. We want to say that the reason why hospitals are having to close down, in a lot of cases, is because of debt, and the reason why there is debt is because of the private contracts, the private finance initiative, and that was introduced by Labour. And we don't think it's right to put Labour politicians on platforms without any criticism or question about PFI, just in order that we can all stand together, because actually that's at the root of the problem. And not everyone agrees with us about that. In fact, in the NHS, we are unique in terms of raising those points. And so it matters that we're able to organise and have our own material and our own leaflets and argue those points while at the same time working alongside other people. Because if we didn't, if we suppressed all that, then we wouldn't actually get to the heart of what's going on in the NHS, and then we wouldn't actually really be able to build a campaign that's capable of saving it. Then, when on the question of how we organise, this is a big question, but it is something that you're going to experience in practice over the next few weeks, because we are coming up to our national conference, our national congress. We organise with a method that's called democratic centralism, as people have said. Now, we are a socialist party, we are a revolutionary party. We are aiming to build a movement that is capable of changing society, of getting rid of capitalism, bringing about socialism. We are aiming to build a movement capable of doing that, which means a movement of the mass of working class people. That's our starting point, and then we have an organisational structure that fits what it is that we stand for and what it is that we're trying to do. So who we are, what we are comes first, and then we have an organisational structure that flows from that. And what democratic centralism means is the essence of it is that it's important to us that we have full freedom of discussion, that we have debate, that all of our members are free to say what they think, to raise differences, to raise questions, to put forward ideas, and that we have as much discussion as possible. But it is also important to us that we are able to act. And that we don't just discuss and just argue with each other and put forward ideas, but we also make decisions and then we act on those decisions. And sometimes we have to act very quickly. We need to be able to we are a combative party in that sense. We are not just about discussing, we are about taking action. And so arriving at decisions and everyone pulling together to implement those decisions is just as important as the ability to have all the discussion and organise and debate about it. There are times when we need to be able to act really quickly without having all the discussion first, because there's no time for it. We have to do something really quickly. If we got a phone call now, if I got a phone call now saying that some issue is breaking out tomorrow, I need to be able to stand here and say to you, as many as you as possible, I've got to get down here tomorrow, and we haven't got time to thrash it out and discuss it and decide what we're going to do and say. We just need to go, yeah, and go if we can. And that's the point also about having a leadership, because as part of our democratic structures is we elect a leadership that is capable of acting and making decisions, but also a leadership that is accountable, that can be changed, that can be called, questioned, and all the rest of it as well. The basic structure of the party is the branch. So this West London branch is the basic unit, the basic structure of the party. And we have a national conference, a national congress, where all the branches send delegates. You, in the next couple of weeks, will elect your delegates, but you can all go as visitors, but you will also have delegates according to the size of your branch that will go to that national congress. And that's the sovereign body. It's an old-fashioned term, but it's the leading body of the party, that conference. That will decide in broad terms what we're doing, how political development's taking place, and what we think we need to do over the next period of time. It will decide on our main targets, our main aims and so on over the next year. And that conference will then elect a national committee. And then we as members give that national committee quite a bit of authority to run the party, in effect, in between national congresses. That national committee then itself elects an executive committee, which is of about 10 or so people, which meets every week. And so those are the national leadership bodies, and we do invest quite a bit of authority in those leading bodies, because they do have to be able to make decisions, but they're decisions that are based on all the discussion that's taken place in the branches, all the discussion that's taken place at the Congress, and they can be called to account, they can be changed at any time. And when there are, and we always try to make sure there is maximum discussion about things as much as possible. So when you've got an issue like the NHS, which is an ongoing issue, and we can always thrash out different ideas, different approaches, and different emphases that we need to make at any different time. And then other times when we need to be quick and act like that, then we have the ability to act like that because of the kind of structure that we have. If there are, that we need more discussion about that. And if there are any questions about that, I mean, I'm afraid I'm going to have to run away the moment the meeting's finished because I've got a train to catch, but lots of people will be able to discuss about it, and you should come back to it and talk about it properly when you have your conference, elections and preparation, I think.